everybody, happy Solstice. Today is December 21st, 2013, and I'm in New Orleans. I came here last night. We had an extremely long drive. It was the longest drive I've ever done. It was noon to 11. I turned the car off at 11 to take a nap, turned it back on at 3 to drive again, a.m., and then drove all the way until about 5 p.m. that day to get here to New Orleans from Arizona. So it's a very long, intense drive, a lot of caffeine, which I don't usually have, but when I'm driving I do. And having the lushness of New Orleans after being in the desert for a couple months feels amazing. And as I was walking down the street to come here, these trees are so huge and epic and so chatty, and so they sing all the time. We were walking around last night after dark and just feeling the energy from the plants and the consciousness here, and I love it here in New Orleans. I hope you guys can hear me over the traffic. I know it's loud, but I'm in the city, so what are you gonna do? Okay, so the point of this reading is to give you a solstice card drawing, and I'll show you how I do it. This is the Gods and Goddesses and Goddesses and Sirens and Gods and Titans decks by Stacy DeMarco with Jimmy Manton doing the illustrations, and her website is at themodernwitch.com. I would highly recommend these cards. They're amazing. And what I would like to do is give you guys a reading the way that I give myself readings. And this is obviously going to be for everyone watching the video. Even if you don't see it on the solstice, it will still be relevant, is what my intention is. And I draw different cards for different reasons. Like in any spread, I've just kind of made this one up over using these cards for a while. And so what I'm going to do is draw the masculine and feminine version of a lot of the things that I'm asking about, because there are going to be men and women watching this video, and also the feminine is the receiving side, masculine is the giving side, so I want to get a more complete picture of any of the stuff I'm going to be telling you about. Okay, so shuffled them. There are a bunch of different ways to shuffle cards. Usually I do them in front and in back like this, and then I do the classic playing card tent thing, that, and then slide together. Okay, that is good enough, setting the intention that this be beneficial to everyone who sees it. Alright, so first I like to draw a card about what the situation is, and that can just be one. And so I drew Athena, strategy, and this makes sense to me because what I had noticed lately, not only that I draw this card all the time, so it's definitely a theme for me, but what I've noticed about this time of year is that just about everybody's kind of having issues. Not necessarily actual physical world issues, just exhaustion, stress, feeling like you want to give up. And I felt like this too, and feeling like it's just too much. It's just too much of a challenge, and just wanting to rest, but on the other hand also feeling this really strong desire to get things moving and do stuff. And so what I think this card is representing for right now, or whenever you happen to see this video, is to merge your strategy with your self-care, because that's part of strategy. If you run all of your troops until they are half dead, they're not going to be able to do much for you when they get to their destination. So I think that this is telling us, confirming for us, I've thought for a couple of weeks now that 2014 is going to be a year of action. 2013 was a year of connection, preparation, realization, and then 2014 is going to be the year where we have to, in a whole different way, put our money where our mouth is and come into our power as beings. Okay, so that is the situation, strategy. And I love this because her messenger is landing on her arm. She's not doing anything, she's not fighting, she's just surveying, but she's in a completely amazing action pose, and you can tell she's just full of strength and confidence. But remember, she's not moving, she's just kind of standing there. Okay, so that's the situation, that's where we are, all right? And then I'll pull some for who we are in the situation. By the way, the story of Athena, she's one of the goddesses of wisdom, and she was born out of Zeus's head. The story is he had this terrible headache, and eventually she just came out of his head, and then she was his advisor in all matters. I don't really believe that is literally true. I don't think that she popped out of his head. I don't know if she was a real person or not. Most deities I consider having been alive at some point or another, and then whether the tales about them are all true, that's something that is up for discussion and interpretation. But usually I do think that a lot of the stories that we have in mythology have come from truth. Alright, so who are we in this situation? And I will draw a feminine and a masculine card for this. Ooh, you guys are going to like this. Okay, so Yemaya is hope. She is an ocean goddess from Africa, and she originally was a river goddess, but then she upgraded when slaves were brought across the ocean, because where she had used to be in the rivers in whatever region she came from, then what happened was she kind of merged with others and became a big ocean goddess. So even though it happened from tragedy, I do consider her a huge help. And she is particularly skilled in making the impossible happen. Her story is that she can make miracles. So it's when you've kind of lost hope, you can call on her and she'll come in and make things work as if it were a miracle. So I'll take that. That's amazing. Pull her pretty often as well. She's also sometimes pictured as a mermaid. So those of you who have a mermaid connection, I know a lot of you ladies out there, and possibly guys too, although I haven't heard from you about mermaids, have the mermaid connection. Okay, so that's the feminine aspect. So receiving hope, receiving the opportunity to allow miracles to happen in your life, inviting them and waiting to see what happens. And then the masculine, what we give, what we're putting out, and also for some of you guys, this might represent your piece a little bit more, is Luke, who's skill. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I like this card. I like, again, how he's not actually doing anything, but you can see in his hand position that he's about to. And he's super focused. And behind him, I feel like, is some interdimensional guide, I think is what that symbol is behind him. Okay, so that's who we are in the situation. The situation is strategy. We, in the situation, anyone seeing this, are hope and skill. Receiving hope, giving out skill. Makes sense. It was what we were talking about 2014 being the year of manifestation badassery. Putting things out, creating things in real life and not just dreaming them up, which we needed to do this past year. Alright, so now I'm going to pull our challenges in this situation, what we're struggling with, what our barriers seem to be. Masculine and feminine. Interesting. Okay, so the masculine, the problem, the challenge, is inquiry, Apollo. And the feminine, the challenge, is pleasure, Kitesh. And Kitesh is a goddess who ended up getting merged into other goddesses as an aspect of them, but in the beginning of her span on Earth, in people's consciousness, it was said that any pleasure one experienced, anything, food, dance, lovemaking, whatever it was actually a prayer to her. So now, especially with women, I've had this conversation a lot lately with the new programs I'm rolling out for 2014. A lot of women believe that they don't deserve pleasure, or that having pleasure is somehow wrong or selfish. And that has to do with Western culture, upbringing, that kind of stuff. And so I think that that's going to be one of the challenges, is receiving pleasure. And, same thing, inquiry. You make an inquiry, and then how do you get it? You receive the answer. And receiving has been a really big issue for a lot of people lately. So that makes sense, because how can you manifest stuff if you can't receive it? So receiving pleasure and answers, I feel like, is the challenge. So then the next cards that I pull in this spread are, so I know my challenges, what is the method I can use to accomplish what I want? What can I do to meet my challenges and rock them? And what I like to put in here is how I'm going to do this. So not just what's my option, but this is how you're going to win against these challenges. All right, a feminine and a masculine. Ooh, interesting. Okay, the feminine is commitment, Hera, and she was the wife of Zeus, and he kind of had all his shenanigans, and a lot of times now all people remember of her is that she was a jealous wife, but what they have often forgotten is that she was like the original home and hearth mother, caregiver goddess. And she did stay with him after all his crazy shenanigans, so there's the commitment. But it kind of reminds me of the skill card, Luke. The energy of it feels a lot similar to me. And then the masculine is ecstasy, Dionysus, which kind of reminds me of pleasure, Katesh. So that means that the way that we can meet our challenges is by receiving commitment, believing that the universe is here to support us, and knowing that that's true, and giving pleasure to ourselves and to others. I feel like living it, exuding it. Enjoyment means imbuing something with joy. So, yeah. And finally, the last thing I always like to pull in the spread is, what is the reward? Because every time we go through a challenge or a test, it's because we're gaining a new aspect of our awesomeness that we have not yet integrated. So I really love pulling a card at the end of these spreads that I do. This is the daily spread I do when I do daily spreads, and seeing what the reward is, what I'm going to accomplish if I can meet this challenge and rock it. Okay, so masculine card and feminine card for the reward, for the upgrade that you get as a completion to your journey on the level of the game that you're currently on in this Gaia hologram. Okay, so receiving peace, white buffalo woman or white buffalo calf woman, and giving abundance, the green man, which totally makes sense because we were talking about manifestation, receiving, and creating, and trusting the universe, knowing that we're supported. So the green man, abundance, I love how his hand is reaching out toward the viewer of this card. And I also love how he's not looking directly at you in the card. He's kind of, I feel like he's looking into another dimension. It's that look that all intuitives get when you ask us a question and we start looking at the grids. You know what I'm talking about. So giving abundance through accessing what we've already created on the astrals is, I think, what our reward will be as far as the giving. The receiving, it'll be peace. I love the white buffalo woman story because she represents peace because she brought peace to the Native American tribes that she visited. But the first thing she did was defend herself against someone who would have attacked her. And she just turned him into ashes. So it's a very interesting kind of peace because she's incredibly strong and not afraid of anything because she doesn't need to be because she could turn some dude into ashes. However, she still brought peace. So it's receiving, I think, the strength and commitment of being in our center and knowing that we are taken care of and powerful and completely aligned with our own inner direction, inner strength, and also our outer manifestation ability because of this one. Creating abundance and being at peace. So, in closing, go over this again. Our situation for the solstice today is strategy. Knowing when to move, when to stop, when to nourish ourselves. Who we are in the situation is receiving hope and giving skill. Receiving hope that miracles can happen even when it seems like all hope is lost, and giving skill and focus and clear-sightedness and clear action. Okay, our challenges in this situation, I think, are all about receiving. Inquiry, asking the right questions, waiting for the right answers and hearing them well, and then pleasure, receiving pleasure, allowing ourselves to be the sensory beings that we're supposed to be in all ways, not just physical senses, but extra senses as well. And then, the way we're going to beat these challenges are understanding that the universe is committed to us and supporting us, and again, enjoying our world, imbuing it with our joy and our appreciation and our awesomeness too. Remembering that that's one of the great things about Dionysus. I mean, this dude is the one who had people coming and drinking in the forest and having crazy parties, and that was what he did, and you need that in life too. I have had dreams about traveling around next year and holding a bunch of amazing outdoor dance parties where totally sober, no alcohol or drugs, just amazing high vibe music and dancing barefoot outside. Don't know if that's actually going to manifest or not. Maybe I need to ask these guys to help me, I don't know. So our reward is peace and abundance. And the word reward isn't exactly right. What I consider it as is, this is what beating this level is going to give me. So I hope you're all doing amazingly well. Happy solstice. I am hosting that Perfect Life List experience later today, which I'm really looking forward to. It's always fun to do that. Life-changing, in fact. And this has definitely been a time of, I feel a lot like a little bird during a hurricane lately, hiding and waiting for the storms to pass. Although the storms are just within us, but it still feels like a friggin' storm. So moments of incredible clarity and joy and appreciation and huge expansion, and then moments of deep sorrow, pain, doubt, fear, being afraid to trust everything, and having tests and lessons and all the above, you know. So to give you guys a view of New Orleans, check it out. This is where I currently am. This is a beautiful little area that's built here, and where I'm sitting is on an old tree stump that filled, look at how big this guy was, he filled this whole area. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys today. Don't go in peace, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Happy solstice again.